My last victim was in the year 2000.
Some Y2K disagreement?
I want our readers to understand that.
Okay. Did you eat the baby?
All right, well, buy a toothbrush on the way home.
Hello and welcome back to House of R. I'm Joanna Robinson. Joining me today, wrapped up in ribbons and bows, it's Mallory Rubin. Hey, Mal, how are you doing?
I am on the alert for sinister talk of molars and bicuspids around every corner.
Oh my God. My heart is just full of delight because Mallory Rubin just quoted Interview with a Vampire to me.
I did.
This is what we are calling our holiday gift swap. Unbeknownst to me, though she knew that I have long been desiring it, Mallory Rubin watched Interview with a Vampire, and my heart was so full, and my mind just abuzz with opportunity. We had the idea to do a gift swap, which means that Mallory watched Interview with a Vampire, and I watched Landman, two equally quality shows.
That's right.
And we're here to talk about them. And we thought if this goes well, this might be like a new tradition of us. As you may remember on this feed, Mallory watched all of Doctor Who. For me, essentially, but for herself, for all of us,
That's
for
right.
content.
Got my TARDIS.
Exactly. So I'm in debt to her big time, but who's to say if she's gonna make me watch other Taylor Sheridan shows? But in this case, Landman is something I watched. Is that House of R material? Not really, but we will be talking about it today.
One of these days, I'll pick something that's like more germane for what we cover week to week instead of just Chris and I are really texting a lot about this right now. Get in on it.
Get in on it,
Which is
Joanna.
how this decision was made.
So I watched Landman, 9 episodes of a 10-episode season. None of us have seen the finale yet. So
can't fucking wait.
I have some theories about what's to come for us in the finale. Anyway, so we're going to talk about these things that we've swapped. And so if you haven't seen either show, you should hang on anyway because we've got some fun clips and you might just like get enticed to watch them anyway.
Yes. And I have only seen season 1 of Interview with the Vampire so far. Season 2 awaits.
Let's do our spoiler warning now. Sure, why not? Up through episode 9 of Landman and up through season 1 of Interview with the Vampire. No spoilers for season 2, even though Mallory did hear a clip from it on our closing podcast of last year, but not in a way that's gonna ruin your life, I think.
No.
Okay.
No.
So that's the spoiler warning. That's a little early. Let's do program reminders. Why not?
Do it.
Let's do it. Okay. So listen, Button Mash, our pals at Button Mash are doing the most anticipated games of 2025. Get hyped to play some games. It won't be me, but it will be some of you playing games in this year, and you'll want to hear what's coming up. The Midnight Boys, pew, pew. Hot off their incredible Lord of the Rings recast episode.
Astonishing stuff. Yeah.
Really great stuff from
Wonderful.
our guys. We'll be doing a like sort of mega Skeleton Crew catch up because they'll be doing episodes 5 through 7. So that is something coming from the Midnight Boys. And then the Mint Edition crew is doing something they're calling the 2025 Confidence Meter. Basically, we're all in a position to be looking ahead.
Mm-hmm.
And by all of us, I mean all of us, because we'll be doing this over on the House of R in our own special way. We'll be doing Skeleton Crew, of course, episode 7 later this week, and then we'll be doing Skeleton Crew finale next week. So, of course, we'll be here for all the ins and outs of Jod and Neil and Fern and KB and Wim and the rest of them. But we will also be doing our annual hype draft with Ben and Sean.
Can't wait.
I feel like Ben and Sean, if it's not really a competition, but they might have beat us. And I demand that not happen again this year.
The hype draft is genuinely an exercise in shared celebration. It is.
But then sometimes we go back to the tape and we draw some conclusions.
Maybe after 2024, we'll never do that again.
Maybe that's the last time we do that. Okay. So that's all coming up.
Mm-hmm.
Mallory,
yes.
How can folks keep up with all of that? Listen, perhaps even watch any of this content that's coming from us?
Thanks for asking.
You're welcome.
I'm thrilled to report that there are a few easy, quick steps that you can take to share this journey with us in 2025. Here's what you should do. First of all, follow the pod. Follow House of R, follow the Ringerverse on Spotify or wherever you get your podcast. Guess what? You can watch us. You can watch full video episodes of House of R and the Midnight Boys, pew, pew, on Spotify and the Ringerverse YouTube channel. So follow, subscribe. While you're at it, your phone's in your hand, you're at your computer. Follow the Ringerverse on the social media platform of your choosing. We are on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok.
Sure.
And then you're like, how else can I engage? Guess what? The inbox
asking.
is open. Send an email to hobbitsanddragons@gmail.com. What are you hyped for? Let us know. Send us your thoughts on the penultimate Skeleton Crew and the finale of Skeleton Crew, and then all the other goodness that's to come. It's going to be a massive year. There's so many shows and so many movies and so many books coming out this year that we're so excited to cover. So keep the emails coming. We love to hear from you.
We already did our spoiler warning.
We did. Yeah.
Is there
So
anything
it's
else we
back
have
to
to
you
do?
in the studio.
Okay, here I am. It's me, live in the studio. To start with my gift to Mallory Rubin, we're just going to spend a few minutes of our time doing the thing I want to do most, which is talk about Interview with a Vampire. Jessie, will you hit us with that opening clip?
You are a library of confusion.
Some things you don't get about America, Lestat.
Yes, let's have this conversation again.
Colored, white, Creole, French, queer, half queer, mostly queer. What is it?
Non-discriminating.
Hello! That was Louis de Pontelac and Lestat de Liancourt having one of many arguments that they have in season 1 of Interview with a Vampire. And if you don't know, I'm just going to thinly premise what this show is. If you've never read the books, if you've never seen the 90s film, this follows basically the first half of the 90s film and the book Interview with the Vampire, season 1 does, wherein the vampire Louis de Pontelac tells the story of his turning into a vampire and his relationship with the vampire who turned him, Lestat de Liancourt, and he tells the story to the journalist Daniel Malloy. There's been a couple of great stuff. The icon Daniel Malloy, played by Eric Bogosian. We're gonna get some real great Malloy-isms inside.
Cannot wait. The whole pod could be about our guy Dan.
A few updates they made to the story to sort of make it a little bit more interesting or work a little better is they changed the time period. So if you read the book or seen the 90s film, Louis' story starts in New Orleans in an era where there is slavery. And they're like, guess what? We're just not going to do that. So they set it a little forward in time. And then we've cast Jacob Anderson, who is not white, in the role of Louis, and his racial identity, as you already heard in that first clip, plays a part in sort of his vampiric identity as well, in a way that it doesn't in the book and the 90s film. So that is the premise. So basically, we're hearing their story, and then we've moved Daniel Malloy's story forward in time in the original book, and in the film, this takes place in the 90s. I think the book is the 70s, and in the film it's the 90s, and they've moved it forward in time. But this is like a second interview with a vampire, essentially.
Right.
And so Daniel's already met Louis, and this is him coming back to engage with Louis again, to find out what happened to him in the 70s when they first met. And we get a much older Daniel Malloy in the book, in the movie, he's played by Christian Slater. In the book, this is he's called the boy. He's very young. Here we get a very older, cynical, crusty Daniel Malloy, skeptical journalist, sort of comparing the story he's hearing from Louis now to the story he heard from Louis in the 70s. And where does the truth lie? Somewhere in between there. So it's not just a story about vampires, which is great for me and everyone concerned. It's a story about journalism. And Mallory went to J school, so I'm so excited to hear how she feels this reflects the art of journalism, the art of being a vampire. Mallory doesn't like horror. She doesn't love bloody, gory things, and yet she endured this. Mallory Rubin, what are your overall impressions of Interview with the Vampire season 1? Do you see the appeal?
I sure do. I had a great time. You know this because I like to live text you updates as I've concluded certain chunks of viewing. Last Wednesday, to celebrate the new year and to show you how much I care and love you and how you're always on my mind, watched the first 2 episodes and then couldn't watch any on Thursday night and then watched the final 5 on Friday night.
Yeah. I was, even by your usual standards, this is a quick one. I loved it.
Texted you something about episode 3 when I resumed the watch, and then by the end of the night was telling you I had finished season 1. And honestly, I think if not for the fact that this was the final weekend of the NFL regular season and there was a lot of football to watch on Saturday and Sunday, I probably would have just rolled right into season 2, though that is not on Netflix.
I know.
Yet. Which is
that's how they get
annoying.
Yeah. AMC's like, we would like you to subscribe to AMC.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah.
But yeah, I loved this. I thought, and even though the clip that you played on our top 10 moments of the year was like, just completely out of context for me and thus not something that I could really perceive as a spoiler because I didn't really know what I was listening to. Obviously, I was struck by the lovely quality of the language, even in just that little snippet. And the writing across the season is so vivid and evocative and beautiful. And it is like sharp and smart and funny, but also very like sexy and of course sometimes upsetting and scary. I found the framework incredibly compelling, not only because of my guy Dan, journalist with a capital J. I actually can't believe I didn't text you about this, but when he's on the call, he's like, it's going to be a book, but we could consider an excerpt in Vanity Fair. I'm like, man, this is just every Joanna box possible is being checked here. But I found, as you know, like one of the things that I really am perpetually fascinated by is the idea of memory. I like to, for your amusement, I hope, routinely mention the affair and the nature of how those episodes were framed around how different people were called the same thing. But I love that aspect of the conversations between Daniel and Louis in the present timeline. The moments where Daniel is really pushing Louis. Was it raining? Was it raining? And then Louis opens his book and reads a passage to him. And it's like, my wife reminds me that like I didn't have a Buick. This is the nature of recollection. I just think that's so fascinating, and the way the show is engaging with it is very compelling and captivating. And then the lead performances are incredible. I mean, our guy Jacob Anderson, like Grey Worm is here.
So good.
He is incredible. Getting to watch him move across time and the way that Louis is changing based on where he is in his vampiric journey, or where he and Lestat are at a given moment. The way that he is speaking to Daniel in the present timeline, I find his voice so hypnotic and melodic. It is like mesmerizing. And I had no exposure to Sam Reed before this at all, and am wondering why he's not the most famous person alive, because his Lestat is just unbelievable. It's like he's loud, he's bold, he's sultry, he's scary, he's sexy, he's everything. And it is fantastic. So yeah, I had never read the books. Adam was like, have you seen this original movie? And I think I've certainly seen scenes from it and clips from it, but watching the show, I'm like, maybe I don't know if I have actually, because I was, familiar with some of the story beats, but this all felt really new to me. So yeah, I loved it. And as I understand it, you can tell me if this is not correct, but people were very, very high on season 1, but then thought season 2 even leveled up further. Is that correct?
I think it's yes with an asterisk, which is it's a little slow to start. So I would say like the first couple episodes are just like a little slow to start, and then it just explodes and is, I think, even better than season 1. Yeah. And so I'm really excited for you to watch that. And so I would say hold off on watching the Tom Cruise, Brad Pitt masterpiece if you can. Kirsten Dunst is Claudia, obviously. Yeah. Because the season 2 is the back half of that movie. So I would just like watch season 2 and then watch
and then
the
catch
movie,
up
perhaps.
on it.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I'm just, it's like the thrill of my lifetime to hear you talk about Interview with a Vampire. I love the show. It was funny. I was thinking about shows that I have recommended to you that you have watched that you maybe might not have otherwise. And the only other one I can really think of other than Doctor Who, obviously, is The Great. And I was just like, I really like, that Mallory takes me up on my like Very like literary, verbose, but like still smutty and violent, kind of shows that I really love. And this like, if you like The Great, I think you would love Interview with the Vampire. We love Jacob Anderson. We love Sam Reed. We love Eric Bogosian. Do you have a favorite character so far or a favorite storyline so far that you want to single out?
It's going to be difficult to not give some sort of Lestat-centric answer for every prompt you toss my way. And I am not sure I'm going to really try to not do that, to be honest. Certainly Lestat is my favorite character. Again, performance is incredible. The lines that he gets are just so fun. Like, some of them are so just... Again, like I feel like I'm listening to somebody recite poetry, but the way that he is performing it, you believe that the character would just say these things in impromptu. Like when he says in episode 4, it feels like eating syrup while riding on the wind. I totally believe that Lestat would just say that, but I'm also like my jaw is on the floor and I'm just awed. So it's certainly Lestat for favorite character. I will say though that Daniel is like a stealth runner up for me. Yeah. I was a little bit skeptical in episode 1. I always love Eric Bogosian. Shout out Billions. You know, I never miss a chance to say that to you.
The affair
and today
and
wasn't going to be the first time.
Showtime would like to thank you for your continued support.
We're only a month away from Yellow Jackets, so it feels right. He is very like playing the character in a very specific and particular way, but pairing that with like what you need that character to be, which is audience avatar. Like when he kept repeating in episode 2, "Did you eat the baby?" I was sitting at home saying like, did he eat the baby? And so then to hear Daniel say that like felt very rewarding and satisfying. It helps suck you in. Vampire language.
It
suck
was
you into
vampire language.
The story. I actually was catching up with my dad and stepmom last night about The Complete Unknown. They went to the movie theater for the first time since before COVID.
Oh my God. The Dylan family.
A huge day. They were like, we need to have a FaceTime to debrief on the film. And I actually meant to mention this line to my dad, but forgot, so I'll have to text him. Ken Burns can choke on the footnotes. will go down in infamy. Just astonishing stuff. So that's been really fun. And then, in terms of storyline, this is not a particularly unique answer to the question, but just everything about the Lestat and Louis relationship, of course. The maker and his companion, the need that Lestat has for Louis, the way that he speaks to Louis about how specific he is, how in all of Lestat's time walking the earth, he has never come across anybody like Louis. The clip that you already played, I think obviously really sums up one of the aspects of their relationship that makes the show so compelling and their interplay so compelling, and the setting and the time frame and the places we are so compelling, the way that this is exploring sexuality and race and with Lestat and Louis, the way that they're where they are in their journeys is so different. So the way that they both kind of serve as a lens into the idea of like thirst or hunger is very different. And obviously that's a very active text for them. Mm-hmm. What Louis feels like morally okay with and what Lestat is, where he's able to support him or when he's kind of pushing him to like succumb to some sort of hunger or instinct. Right. That's just all fascinating. And then I find and this is where like the fact that I have no exposure to the source material, I'm kind of like, I don't know if I'm, if I'm actually just missing something here, or if this is supposed to be as compelling of a mystery as I and Claudia found it. But the questions about Lestat's past, and when we will learn what, are very intriguing to me. So yeah, that's all just great. And like, honestly, it's so good that we've talked about stuff like this with other characters and other stories where like, it's ultimately a credit to a show or a book or a movie when you find that you're enjoying the time with a certain pairing or group of people so much that anytime you're not with them, you really resent it. So like, I really liked Claudia and was really interested when she came into the story. And I thought the first Claudia episode was like incredible. But then as Claudia became a wedge between them, I was genuinely so resentful, even though I understand that that's an important part of the arc. So yeah,
this is something that they got so right, and in all the updates I've neglected to mention maybe one of the most important, which is that they made Louis and Lestat overtly gay, whereas they are not in the book and in the 90s film. But try watching that 90s film and being like, sure, Tom Cruise is just obsessed with Brad Pitt for definitely not sexual reasons. It's so their relationship, what the show nails about it though, and nails about Lestat is that he is incredibly toxic, that he is incredibly bad for Louis. And at the same time, you can't help but root for them to be together. Yeah. And that's like a really tough thing to pull off because I don't think it shies away from the worst qualities of Lestat. And every time Claudia makes a point, you're like, she's right. And also, but I want them to be together is part of the engine that drives Anne Rice's story and something that you absolutely delivered on so perfectly. And and I thought the Claudia stuff worked really well. It's a tough thing to pull off. I'll be so interested when you get around to watching the movie because it's like one of Kirsten Dunst's first and very iconic performances as like little Claudia. So it's tough because Claudia's dilemma is supposed to be she's a woman trapped in a girl's body and they cast a slightly older actress and it's actually a different actress for season 2.
I saw that they recast for season 2. That's interesting.
And so it's like there's a little bit of suspension of disbelief that you have to do to swallow the Claudia story, but it all works so well as this dysfunctional family, or sort of this question of, we'll talk about what this has to say about relationships in a second. But actually, let's do it right now. What, if anything, has Interview with a Vampire taught you about marriage? We love, from our very first podcasting journeys together, in which we covered scenes from our marriage on the Prestige TV feed.
Wild.
You and I love talking about dysfunctional relationships. And you've always loved talking about dysfunctional relationships inside of stories. So what this show about, I don't know, what happens to a relationship when you stretch it through eons rather than, a singular mortal lifespan. What happens to a relationship? Can you just add a kid? Does that make it better? Does that make it worse? In the case of Claudia, does sleeping in separate but adjacent coffins, is that the way to go? Or what do you think? Should we get one double-sized coffin? So what does this show have to say about relationships that's interesting to you?
Yeah, obviously this is incredibly different tonally from something like San Junipero, but it did make me think of some of those same things, to your point about like eternity, right? If you're going to spend, if you could, you don't have to, but if you could spend like forever with somebody, what would that look like and feel like? And would the same things that bother you in a mortal life on a given afternoon or evening bother you more or less? Like, it's so interesting to think about time and scope and scale like that. I think that what this reinforced to me about marriage is that if you're going to have an open marriage, you really need to make sure you're on the same page. I got such a kick out of when Louis like, so if I was so I can fuck other people, you don't mind?
Of course.
That's like, of course. Like, you can just feel his mania every time repeat it. Of course, that was great. Certainly, yes. If you're gonna have kids, make sure that you and your partner are on the same page before you embark on that journey. They were really figuring that out in real time. Those two, keep things fresh in the bedroom. Yeah, I think the double coffin. It's I'm gonna go no. I think they seem to benefit from having separate space. And I think even frankly, the two coffins side by side in one room, while it did lead to the high comedy of like Lestat through the coffin saying, I don't like to sleep when I'm angry. It's great stuff. Yeah. Maybe fully separate suites. Why not? Claudia wound up with her own space. Maybe they could have benefited from each having their own space too. What else? Share your passions. Share your passions. I think make sure that you have a lovely library in your home is really a takeaway from me, because it seemed like Armand and Louis were in a much better place. And, obviously there are plenty of books in Lestat's townhome, but when Louis was reading and he's like, you scan 10 pages of these and then you pretend that you're cultured. Whereas Armand used the cloud gift to float up to those bookshelves. Like it was clearly a meaningful part of his life. And when he gave over the diaries to Daniel, he was like, put those fucking gloves on. I gotta tell you, sidebar, when Daniel is like using the gloves, but just putting the diaries down on basically on top of his sandwich.
Yeah.
Come on. Damn.
This is not how we archive. This is not how we respect aged manuscripts. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, these are all great points. I think every coffin-based comedy moment or sensuality moment, like Lestat shirtlessly opening a coffin to beckon Louis to join him is like, and
delightful.
saying you can be on top is just an all-time TV moment. The talking to each other through their closed coffins, great. When Claudia and Louis are in the coffin sort of together having their like shared psychic link that Lestat can't be a part of, all of that stuff is wonderful. I am curious though, so like when I was coming up with questions, I was asking sort of some friends like, what's funny to ask Mallory about Interview with the Vampire? And something that this show does so well, that any vampire anything should do well, is blur the horror with the sensuality. Like we're erotically slurping on necks. This is like what we do when we're in a vampire story. But more than like some of the other ones that like try to be slightly dainty about it, we are just like smeared in like gallons of blood frequently inside of this story. And then like making out or having sex. And so my question to you is, are you now in any way, in a Pavlovian sense, aroused by the sight of blood? And if that's too much to ask, are you willing to do it in a coffin if you're doing it, whatever it is, with the vampire Lestat?
Thanks for asking. It's always the highlight of my week to be here with you.
Sharing professional moments together.
Aroused by the sight of blood, it's still a no for me.
It's a shame.
I'm sorry to say. You know, we've talked about vampire stories before. You're obviously a supreme enthusiast. I'm a much more casual dabbler. But one of my favorite stories that features a vampire in any way is Being Human, where I got to watch Sam Witwer's Aiden have a ton of sex while coated in blood, having bitten people's necks. So I feel like I had some exposure to this. Obviously, again, different vibe and tone in that show. You know, constantly in What We Do in the Shadows, they're talking about fucking each other. So these things are obviously often entwined. The blood, for me, it's still a no.
Coffin?
It's also still a no for me, but more for like practical reasons. I think just like need like free range of motion. That just feels very confining.
That just requires just like a clinch and yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying.
The specific way you framed it to me though was if you're doing it, whatever it is, with Lestat. Yeah. And so that of course is a different framework. With anyone else, it's not even a consideration. With Lestat, you have to at least think about it. Well, what is your answer?
How could you pass on the thrill of a lifetime that is the singular creature that is Lestat, one of the greatest fictional creations of all time? Of course, the answer is yes.
But we get to see him have sex in so many other ways and places. You know, the first time that he and Louis are intimate, later, of course, Louis like, we didn't know you could fly, but we did sort of see them levitate, right? So that was appealing and interesting, very interesting, right?
The possibilities abound.
You know, I don't necessarily want to use anything that resulted in a finger being cut off to try to convince Claudia that Lestat had severed ties and ended his affair. But, you know, we do just see him like in a bed. So
you're like, coffin isn't my only option, is what you're saying.
Yeah,
okay,
it's not my only option.
Something that I haven't mentioned, and again, if you're listening to this and you haven't watched Interview with the Vampire, you're a real sicko and we love you. But I know I cry sometimes in this podcast, but I don't actually think I'm like a huge crier in real life. Like, really, I'm not. I just like, we go deep on stories we care about, and that gets me emotional.
Yeah.
Literally, I remember watching season 1, episode 1 of Interview with the Vampire And when Louis and his brother start doing a soft shoe routine, I did start crying because I have never felt more like something was for me. And then Lestat, of course, is a musician. And so there's just like musical moments throughout this season. And everyone feels like it's just for me. So
Wolverine Blues.
Thank you. Thank you to Interview with the Vampire. Okay, so we're going to talk about our guy, Daniel Malloy, for a second.
Great.
Journalist extraordinaire.
Mm-hmm.
This episode I don't know if you had the same reaction I did, but perhaps because you were watching on Netflix and not AMC, so maybe it didn't get you. But the first episode opens with basically a fake masterclass ad for Daniel Malloy, journalist.
Yep.
And I was watching it on like AMC Plus or something like that. And so I was like half paying attention and I thought it was like a pre-roll of ads. And then I looked up, I was like, wait, that's Eric Bogosian. And then I was like, oh, this is the show. And then I rewound it and started it again.
Great stuff.
Journalist extraordinaire, Eric Bogosian, Daniel Malloy. I just thought because Mallory actually went to J school, she might want to explore some of Daniel Malloy's finest journalism moments to see if perhaps he should be teaching a masterclass or perhaps a course itself at a prestigious J school. So let's start. Before we do, I'm just going to premise this. This I think this clip exemplifies. You've already raised it, but we're just going to listen to it. The importance of continuing to ask the question until you get the answer. Jessie, will you play clip number 1?
My last victim was in the year 2000.
Some Y2K disagreement?
I want our readers to understand that.
Okay. Did you eat the baby?
I sit here, a master of my instincts.
2 questions. Did you eat the baby? And is the pandemic the opening they've been waiting for?
What on earth would a meth-addicted son of a coal miner in West Virginia want with eternal life?
Did you eat the baby?
Or the Arab youth whose family were wiped from existence by a Western drone? No, I'm sure you're right. Hello, Demick.
Hey.
Yeah. So Daniel Malloy repeatedly asking, did you eat the baby?
Incredible.
I think it's very important. This next clip, I think, exemplifies Daniel's double use of cultural context. There's a cultural context. We're about to talk about Claudia. There's a cultural context in the larger history of pop culture. And then there's having a keen sense of current trends and market demands when it comes to packaging a story. Jessie, will you play this clip?
Charlie Manson wrote a couple of beautiful songs. Still, he was Charlie Manson.
Is that all you think of her?
Mostly. I also think she makes you and Frenchie look like a couple of whiny existential queens. Probably why she's a fucking gold mine. The girl who moves 1 million books.
I won't have her exploited.
Won't matter what your intentions are. It's the world out there now. She's the single shooter Xbox mouth breather shit they crave.
Boy. That's really like, this is the Twitter era for sure. Yeah.
Last but not least, and then we'll sort of consider all 3 together.
Okay.
You mentioned this theme of memory as it pertains to Daniel's task here, and you should know that a quote we're about to hear here became the tagline for season 2. So the show itself is very interested in this, but the idea of an unreliable narrator, an unreliable source, using first-hand accounts where you can, primary sources, and making sure your recording is always going. Jessie, will you play this clip?
There he is. You missed at least 3 or 4 endangered species.
I want to apologize for my outburst earlier. I can assure you it will not happen again.
Memory is a monster. We forget. It doesn't. This is session 2. Louis de Pontelac. Can we turn down the music?
Ajo blanco, bread, crushed almonds, garlic, olive oil, salt, a garnish of green grapes, and AB negative, fresh from the farm. Bon appetit.
Part of me wants to ask about the farm.
That's another journalistic thing. Just like leave no stone unturned. Where are we sourcing the blood that Louis is slurping on while Daniel is eating like a 90-course meal here? Daniel Malloy saying memory is a monster, which I believe is him quoting John Irving, is the tagline of season 2. Memory is a monster. All right. So of these 3 clips, which best exemplifies Daniel's journalistic skills? Is there anything that you haven't mentioned already or I didn't mention that you want to bring up when it comes to his journalistic endeavors? How are you feeling about our guy, Dan?
Here's my zag. This guy shouldn't be allowed to teach journalism.
No?
Now, I don't know if this will prove to be some sort of long con and he's got everything backed up to the cloud, but my guy tossing the tapes into the wastebasket and then also deleting the files on his computer. Shocking stuff. Now he's building trust with his source, but he can't just pretend that earlier conversation didn't happen. Obviously, he's trying to interrogate, with Rashid and what we learned there and everything else, like his dreams and that his memory is cutting off what actually happened to him in that setting. So I assume we'll revisit and learn more. But that was alarming, as was, I thought, continuing blatant and flagrant disregard for the doctor saying, I am not here.
I'm not on the record.
Requested anonymity, and I am not on the record to continue to name him on the recordings.
I remember when
he explained his actions in great detail. That was wild.
What does he say in that moment? He says, like, legal drugs make me constipated, but the wit flows like a river.
The wit flows like a river. It's astonishing stuff. That was absolutely incredible. That was a great one. That was actually one where I wasn't really taking notes when I was watching because I was trying to, absorb it all, but I did. I got the notes pad out on the phone. I had to type that one down.
Wit flows like a river.
Great. It flows like a river.
And I should say, and I didn't say this earlier, but some of that like very flowery, beautiful, poetic language is just airlifted directly from the book. So shout out Anne Rice for, the voiceover of Louis talking about what it felt like to hear himself die and the thrum of the blood and the like a beat in the jungle and coming nearer and nearer and all of that. That's directly from the book. But as an act of adaptation, knowing when to pick up her like beautiful flowery language, which is great, and then when to sort of make big changes as they did, I think is why this is like one of the best adaptations of anything I've ever seen. So
fantastic stuff. Of your offered selections, I certainly think we have to go with the repeated
Did you eat the baby?
Did you eat the baby? Because frankly, like we could have used that energy with the, part of me feels like I should ask about the farm. It's like, yeah, you should ask about the farm. And of course, we're at that point, if memory serves, not very far removed from opening the silver tray and seeing a fox that Louis will then eat. So I think we get some of our answers. We've got the farm of people, it seems, farm of animals. I did text you when Louis ate the cat back in the earlier timeline that I was deeply distressed and struggling. That was upsetting.
In an earlier version of this outline, which you put together, there was a question of like, when did you almost quit? But I knew the answer was when Louis, ate the cat.
Like Lestat, I found myself fearing for the feline population
of New Orleans. Okay, speaking of Lestat, again, a unique literary creation. The Brat Prince is what he is known as, and he
Incredible.
Is the lord of all tantrums. So we thought we just might take a moment and go through some of Lestat's most iconic tantrums, and dare we pick a favorite? It's hard to.
This is going to be challenging.
Yeah, I don't have all of them. There's a lot. I have my favorites here. The first one is it's born out of frustration with Louis' taste for cats, but also as an opera lover, a frustrated music lover. Here is Lestat. Jessie will play clip number 4, please.
Why do you do this, Lestat?
Well, I like to do it. I enjoy it.
Well, I don't. You don't have to humiliate him. Well, I don't say that you have to enjoy it. Kill them swiftly if you have to, but do it. Embrace what you are. You are a killer, Louis.
This is a really fun one. If you
Sensational.
don't watch the whole movie, as I already said, but if you want to, there's a side-by-side clip of this and then the same exact words said by Tom Cruise with love and respect to Tom Cruise.
Yes. Jesus.
Sam Reed just like blows him out of the water with this scene. And we should note that Sam Reed, I don't know that his French accent is like accurate necessarily. It is consistent though. So it just like works perfectly. This is my thing with accents. It's like, at least if all of your vowel sounds are consistent, I'm like, I can believe you're from somewhere in France. And Sam Reed is Australian. So like, he's just absolutely crushing it. He's so good. Our next tantrum, well, most of them are screaming because Lestat screams very well.
Yeah.
But we already referenced this one, but I just thought we would hear it. This is a quieter, more desperate internal tantrum. Jessie, will you play clip number 5, please?
So I can fuck whoever I want.
Of course. Of course. Of course. As long as you come home to me. Of course.
Of course.
Remarkable. Genuinely are super, super convincing.
Of course.
Of course.
And so then what happens? Louis does have a romantic assignation. Lestat responds not very well, I would say.
Yeah,
to
poorly.
it. And Jessie, can you play clip number 6?
I heard your heart's dancing! You watched the whole thing like some creeper! And then I watched you pull over and drain a dog and run down an alleyway for 2 more rats! This is not a life! That's because you took my life!
I heard your heart's dancing. By the way, of all the moments on, there's 2 moments from Interview with a Vampire that have gone like super viral on TikTok, and this is one of them. I heard your heart's dancing. He shrieks in a jealous rage, which is just incredible stuff from that. And last but not least, on the tantrum roster, we have, and this is really relatable to me. What happens when you lose literally anything? Let's say a chess game. Will you play clip number 7?
You've won.
I'm tired.
I finished the game.
I think I'm gonna go to bed.
Move your pawn, finish the game.
Good night, Lestat.
Finish the game!
Good night, Louis.
She was right.
Spoiled, selfish, thankless,
It was inevitable.
heedless, disagreeable, obnoxious, repellent, unkind, loyal to the core.
Every ship that sails the sea, every battle that is fought, does affect the American future.
This one's maybe my favorite because we like move into Louis's head. We're hearing his voiceover. We're hearing the radio, but you in the background, you could just hear Lestat like shrieking and breaking things because he may have been alive for a very long time, but he is still an absolute child, Lestat the Liancourt.
I love that one. The chess one's really great. And also because like the tension is building so spectacularly in that stretch of the story of like, is Claudia gonna best him? Like, how is this all gonna shake out? And he's tracking that too. And so like the game takes on such heft and consequence, and it represents something obviously like larger than what it is. And I love from Claudia knowing that it will enrage him as it does to just get up. It's like way more insulting and infuriating and enraging to say, no, I don't actually like need to put you into checkmate.
To like win-win. We all know that I won.
I beat you and now you have to just think about it forever. That's a great one. Those were all spectacular. I mean, absolutely spectacular. Multiple candidates per episode. It's just a very rich text. I think one of my other favorites was also a Lestat Claudia one when she comes back and he's like, quick stop home to do laundry before you fuck off for good. Great stuff. Great stuff.
He doesn't like sharing things, and that's very important. Okay.
Wonderful.
I already know that you're gonna watch Interview with the Vampire season 2. You would have done it this very weekend if there hadn't been so much football for you to take care of. But I just want to show you. You probably already know this.
Is it Ben Daniels?
It is. I'm just gonna put a GIF of Ben Daniels,
dude. I can't believe this.
Hair.
I can't believe this. So I did not know that he was in this show. Yeah. And when Adam and I finished watching the season, we immediately watched the trailer for season 2, and I gasped and screamed aloud, "Is that Ben Daniels?" To the point where we had to then restart the trailer because I had talked over. He is 30 seconds of it.
The best I've ever seen him in anything in season 2 of Interview with the Vampire. He is extremely bitchy and wonderful, and it's very exciting.
And he's on stage. Again, I'm going just off a trailer.
Yeah, there's an acting troupe involved in season 2.
Wonderful.
So he's an actor.
What a sentence. This is wonderful stuff.
There's an acting troupe involved. All right.
Oh my God.
What has the experience of watching Interview with the Vampire season 1 taught you, Mallory Rubin, about me, Joanna Robinson, as we wrap up this section of the gift exchange?
It helps explain your interest in the Nosferatu coffin.
I actually didn't put that together until I was prepping for this, and I was like, oh, yeah.
Now that I know what people are getting up to in those coffins, a lot has become clear.
Sure.
Here's what I will say.
I'm still getting coffin selfies from people, by the way. Every single one of them I cherish. You're all
How many people have made their way in, though?
Not a single person's made their way in. I did get a photo from someone in a different coffin.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh no!
A different fake. A different fake coffin. And then you sent me an Instagram reel of someone who purchased the sarcophagus, which is just I'm so jealous. Okay, so to help you understand my Nosferatu sarcophagus thing,
that is really it's a lot has clicked into place there for me. But no, honestly, and this is actually a really nice feeling. I don't think it was less that it taught me something and more that it affirmed things. So many of the things that I know you're passionate about: great writing, bold wigs, memorable suits, a strong cocktail, a diet rich in iron, all present here. So it felt less to me like learning something new and more like this whisper that I had always heard became a undeniable shout.
In the jungle. I love it.
A drum beat.
A drum beat in the jungle. Okay. Incredible. And I just, for the record, as we wrap this up, this feels very self-indulgent that we did this at all. Van Lathan also thinks this is a masterpiece of a show. Charles and I did an episode of The Prestige.
That's right.
Charles really likes this show. So it is it's just a great show. And I'm going to get to this a little bit more when we get into your section, but I both want more people to watch it because I want it to run for as long as I want it to run.
Yeah.
And also don't want more people to watch it. And I'll unpack that a little bit more when we talk about Landman.
Not everything should be made for the masses. When is season 3 coming out? I was afraid to Google much about season 3 since I haven't seen season 2 yet. So,
well, what's exciting about season 3 is that it's based on a different book. But what's exciting about Anne Rice is there's just a ton of material to draw from. They put out a little stinger teaser, but I did ask the showrunner about it, and he was like, "Who's the best?" By the way, he's wonderful, but he was like, we just it's a Lestat based teaser, and it was basically just we did that for the fans. We haven't really started on season 3. So season 3 hasn't really, I think, started yet, or they're just starting. So I think we have a little while to wait.
Okay. So it could be 2025, but it's not a lock.
I think it's likely early 2026, but I could be wrong.
Oh, boy. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So exciting. Maybe 2025 if we're very good. Speaking of being very good, ? Over to you, Mallory Rubin.
Oh boy. So Joanna had previously said that she would watch. Neither of us could remember exactly, but we both felt pretty sure it was something Yellowstone centric. I think it might have been 1923. That feels most likely to me because we were covering Harrison Ford a lot at the time.
It's a 1 season so far sort of investment.
Yes, season 2 coming in February. Right. So you still have time to catch up.
Right.
But when I texted Joe that I had started an interview with the vampire, and Joe came up with this great idea for the pod, and it was like, well, what could Joe watch? This again, is not necessarily, and by necessarily, I mean at all, House of R fare, Landman. And yet, the reason that it felt right is because every now and then, something happens at the Ringer where genuinely independent of the quality of the thing, it feels like it takes over our hive mind, like our collective consciousness. And so I will say a lot of the Taylor Sheridan shows, a lot of the Sheridan-verse shows are fairly popular with many people at the Ringer. I watch a lot of them. Chris watches every second of all of them. Van watches all of them. Lindbergh watches all of them. Bill watches them, etc.
The nation watches them.
They are incredibly popular.
Yeah.
Even by that standard, Landman has felt distinct inside of the Ringer, and just like with people in life, Chris and Andy were talking about this on the watch because Chris loves Landman. Andy is like, why do you make me talk about this with you every week? And, Chris said something similar to what I'm saying right now, which is like, this is the show that is just an absolute guarantee for me to get the most texts about for people in my life every week. It just, for whatever reason, has animated the zeitgeist. It genuinely has. And so it has nothing to do with House of R. I feel sort of bad saying this, but like, I didn't necessarily think you would like it, but I did want to share it with you.
Yeah.
And I feel happy that we will now be able to correspond even more actively than we already do in Billy Bob and Allie Larder quotes. And you thought I was excited when we landed on this arrangement. But when you sent a Landman text this weekend on our group chat with Chris, I don't know that I've ever seen him use that many capital letters all in a row.
Certainly not to me. That's the most animated he's ever been to me.
And so that was kind of why. It's like, it just feels like a fun thing that's happening.
Yeah.
And I wanted to share it with you. And now I get to. So what is Landman? Landman is, again, it's part of the Sheridan verse, but it is not part of the Yellowstone verse. It is about a landman, the Billy Bob Thornton character, Tommy Norris, who is working as the GM and fixer for the John Hamm character, Monty's oil company. This is based on very loosely adapted from Boomtown, the Texas Monthly podcast. And as is often / eventually always the case with the Taylor Sheridan show, there ends up being a cartel element. But it is about a certain aspect. Again, the show to show, this aspect varies, but they are all about a certain aspect of American life and family life.
Yeah.
And I have not watched every single Sheridan show, but I've watched a lot of them. I have, for some reason, despite all of Chris's praise and adoration for it, Lioness is my blind spot. Another classic. Adam watched it without me, and now I'm like, wow, when will I? What chance do I have to catch up? But Landman is 1923 is my favorite in terms of just, I think actually is the best show. And I think the 1883, the Yellowstone spinoff prequel that came before it, the origin story, was the next best in terms of quality of what I've seen. But Landman is the most fun I've had. It is deranged. It is, despite the fact that we are gathered here today on a podcast to speak aloud about it, it sort of defies explanation and at times comprehension. The lead performances from Billy Bob and Allie Larder are just immensely entertaining. And you can really count on 42 to 45 minutes of laughing out loud, filming a 30-second clip on your phone and texting it to your friends on the weekend.
Yeah.
I have taken to watching this as quickly as I can each week. It's a Sunday night show technically, but it posts on Paramount Plus at 9 p.m. Pacific on Saturdays. And that is when Adam and I have watched it. I believe this would be the 5th Saturday in a row, which is super normal and healthy, and obviously a really not at all embarrassing and fine thing to say out loud on a podcast now for the second time in terms of an insight into my vibrant Saturday night social life, and have really enjoyed the bit that I will now miss. Only one more week to text my friends on Saturday and say this many hours till Landman. And you gave me that gift this week. You did it. You sent me that text. You sent me and Chris a text. A Landman countdown on Saturday, and I gasped aloud. It was just a fucking wonderful feeling, honestly. That is the essence of it's more about describing the essence of Landman than it is the plot. I think that is the essence of Landman, and this is a safe space. Let me say that for you to share freely and candidly.
Oh, I know.
And it is okay to not like Landman. Again, it is about the experience. What did you think? What are your overall impressions of the first 9 episodes of season 1 of Landman? And perhaps this is actually a equally germane part of it. Do you see the appeal? Do you understand why Landman has its oil rig pipeline in all of us so deeply?
Fracking you all to your very core. Listen, I'm gonna sort of cheat. That last question of what has it taught us about each other is one I sort of put on the list. I suggested.
Yeah, you want to hit it first?
I kind of want to move it up into this question because a lot of what you talked about is sort of the actually the big revelation I had.
Yes,
which is Mallory Rubin is one of the smartest people I know. And she has incredible taste in beautifully written dialogue and emotional investment and mythos and story and all this sort of stuff like that. And also she loves some of the dumbest shit that I've ever seen in my life.
I do.
And so then I was like, okay, given that Mallory is so smart, genuinely one of the smartest people I've ever met in my life, given that she doesn't think that women should be depicted the way that they are depicted in Landman, what is the joy that Mallory sources from this? And I was like, well, something I know about Mallory is that she, this is just of a pattern of the affair, of Billions, of a lot of these shows. And I would say Billions and the Affair are way better than Landman.
Billions, first few seasons of Billions, dynamite.
That you love that shared experience.
Oh, yeah.
And we talk about this some time on the podcast, but I think it's a real difference between us because I actually think I get the most delight out of a show that not everyone has figured out is great yet. And I know it's great and I can share it with a few people, but I'm content to it's just me that knows it's great. And I just watch it sometimes even by myself and that's okay. And I'm just brimming with joy about it. And I'm Mallory loves sharing, and I like sharing things obviously, but you love if no one else is watching Landman, I don't think you would watch Landman, but you love sharing the dumbness that is Landman with Bill, with Chris, with whoever, and there's a few other things that we've covered either directly or tangentially over the years that have been that fall under this umbrella. Or I remember that when you got hired, at Grantland, you watched The Sopranos and then you watched it again and you love it because it's a masterpiece. But part of the urgency for you was oh, I need to have seen The Sopranos.
I can't interact with Bill and not have seen this. Yeah,
right. Whereas here I am 3 years into employment and I haven't seen The Sopranos yet. But but that I remember you told me that really early on, and it sort of unlocked something for me, which is you're I need to be fluent in this, and it's part of something I've seen you do in the real world when we go around to various places. Not that we go out that much, but when we do, you can talk to anyone about any given sports team, and that's a gift you have where you just sort of even you don't even have to aggressively bring it up. I've just seen you organically move into it with almost anyone we've ever interacted with. And I was telling Rob over on the Prestige Squid Game episode that we recorded earlier, because Rob Mahoney, an actual Texan.
That's right.
I texted him and I was like, I'm going to be watching Landman. Did you wind up watching some of it? Because I knew basically Paramount emailed Rob, was like, Rob, you're from Texas.
Yeah.
Will you watch Landman?
Yeah.
And he's like, Joanna, I'm pretty sure you're going to hate it. And I was like, okay. So Rob and I were talking about what I watched over the holiday break. And I was like, I watched a lot of Survivor and I don't watch a lot of reality TV show at all. Right. But someone was asking me why I was watching Survivor, and I was like, for office culture. I was like, so that I can talk to people about Survivor, actually. I didn't hate the experience of it, but part of it was sort of that Mallory Rubin move of Mallory is The Sopranos designed to Survivor? ? But I want to be able to talk. I can't talk to our colleagues about sports because I could, but I don't, And so I'm like, well, Survivor is sort of sports adjacent.
For sure.
And now I can definitely talk about Landman if I choose to. So do I see the appeal for me personally? I really disliked this show. Though what I will say is that it goes down so easy. Nothing could be easier. than watching them
it's like a
plowing through
Michelob
Landman.
Ultra.
I was shocked I was like, oh God, this
Yeah,
is just going to take me all weekend. It's going to be a drudge. And then I was like done early. And I was like,
yeah.
how did that happen? And then I went into a fugue state and I watched all of Landman. So
Every time one of the episodes ends, it's a shock that it's over.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
So fast.
Yeah.
So I get it. Like, I get that. I totally get that. If you just like want to just like ease into the warm bath of not using your brain power for anything other than like meme possibilities, then like I get the appeal of Landman, and I get the appeal of sharing something dumb or great with the people that you love. That makes a lot of sense to me. In an isolation, I think Landman's one of the like worst things. There's things I will be able to isolate and talk about as I appreciate it. And I didn't I didn't hate the experience. But I was just like, I guess the only thing that bummed me out slightly is I was like, there are so many better shows that people aren't watching and everyone's watching Landman. And that does bum me out a little bit.
It is sort of like sociologically interesting how popular these shows have become. I think I know a lot of people who started watching Yellowstone, honestly, because it was like, oh my God, it's like a travel log or something. It's just so beautiful to see the scenic Montana landscapes and the mountains and things like obviously like Landman doesn't have that quality to it. There's the nice like kind of Friday Night Lights, sunset over the plains sort of aspect, but
kind of Friday Night Lights, like Friday Night Lights, like methadone. I was texting with my friends, Dustin and Seth, who I used to work with at Pajiba, who you met when we were at South by. And I was like, do you guys watch Landman? And they're like, oh yeah, we love that dumb show. We watch it every week. We talk about it all the time. It's the worst thing ever. We love it. Like, blah, blah, blah. And then Dustin was like, it's just the biggest Friday Night Lights. Like, it tries to become Friday Night Lights so quickly. He would say he was like 3 episodes in or whatever. They're doing like the montages of the early morning, and we're doing more like oil derricks than we are doing like fields. But occasionally we do get
we do go to a football field every so often. Grandma Saracen is quite literally here, and and frankly astonishing showing as Ethel.
And the score could not be more explosions in the sky if it tried.
Very similar musical cues. This was why Bill wanted to do Friday Night Lights the movie for rewatchables last week, is because Billy Bob and like it's hard not to be thinking, not only because of the direct Billy Bob tie, but just about another show set in Texas of a very different sort and quality. While watching this, I do think hearing you parse all that, like I do think there is a sports adjacent quality to watching Landman and many of the Sheridan verse shows. Actually, like it is like a one of the things that I've gotten a real kick out of listening to the Watch's coverage of Landman this season and all of the Sheridan verse coverage on the Watch is that every time they talk about it, Chris says, which I will now say my version of like, and I don't share the politics of the show. It's like you do almost feel like, I mean, plenty of people who watch the shows do share the politics without question. But if you don't, you do almost feel a compulsion to like say that out loud.
You're like, I'm not personally a climate change denier.
Yeah, exactly. I have personally never swum in a reservoir talking about the next pandemic.
I don't personally think women should be depicted this way, but
I have a different speech prepared when I go to the wind farms. Just me personally.
Yeah.
But yeah, like there is that kind of dissonance at play. But yeah, I think there is that like sports fandom collective aspect to, okay, and it's the weekend and it's Landman time or it's Yellowstone time and I'm going to text about it with my bros. Like it's I don't know. It's very odd.
And I get the appeal of that. I mean, like the closest I have to touching that is like Game of Thrones. Like you and I came up and like Game of Thrones was the biggest show on the planet and everyone tuned at the same time. I talk about the monoculture all the time and how I do think the monoculture is important. But like I started Game of Thrones
right
like when it was the dorky little HBO dragon show that the New York Times panned, and I was just sort of like, but I love this, and then it like exploded. So so to go back to Interview with the Vampire, I don't want Interview with the Vampire to become Game of
everybody's
Thrones
thing.
I don't. But I love sharing it with like some people, and I've been called out for this in the past, and people think it's a very snobby quality in me. And something that my friend's sister said the other day about recently about snobbiness, which we say all the time now, is like, why worry? Someone was like, am I a snob about this? She's like, why worry?
Why
so
worry?
I'm like, am I a snob about this? Why worry? Probably yes, but why worry about
That's fine.
it?
Why worry? I like it. Why worry?
Why worry?
This does make me think of another kind of like macro question, actually, that I'm really interested to ask you about now that you have seen a season of a Taylor Sheridan show. Because this is actually less why I go to watch these shows as a just person who's like, how should I spend an hour on the weekend? And more, this is where I think we are like professionals who cover pop culture and work on pod networks and websites and like the media entertainment industry part of my brain. And I know this is something Chris is like obsessed with. I'm like, how does this guy do this?
I know.
Taylor Sheridan, the sheer weight of TV that Taylor Sheridan is not singly, obviously there are huge teams of people who work on all of these shows, but is driving.
Yeah.
He's like, Paramount Plus is a streamer, like is the Taylor Sheridan experience. It's astonishing. So I was curious, like you obviously are a TV and film critic and expert. What is your read on that? Are you like, well, maybe he shouldn't make quite that much of it? Are you like, is there any awe that comes from just seeing the output? Or
I mean, absolutely. I mean, I do feel like he's close to losing his marbles, as evidenced by some of the things that I've heard reported off of the latest season of Yellowstone, in terms of like being high on his own supply, to like, which he's been for a while, but to a degree that is maybe now even more people are noticing.
Are you referring to perhaps the fact that he's been a character on Yellowstone for some time, but that he basically had half the scenes when season 5 came back, and in a very memorable and notable stretch, cast Bella Hadid as his own girlfriend and staged a prolonged strip poker sequence with Beth Dutton. And basically when Beth asked the Bella Hadid character, why are you dating this guy? The answer was, and I'm paraphrasing, have you seen how he rides a horse? Well, imagine how he fucks. And he wrote that about himself. Is that what you're referring to?
That might be perhaps what I'm referring to. So like, I understand.
Incredible.
I understand. Here's what he's mastered.
Oh my
God.
God.
And this is something that Dustin was pointing out to me about Landman, is like his shows are like pleasantly dumb. Like you can just sort of swallow it down. Center right leaning, so it appeals to like a massive part of the country who feel like maybe they're not represented in mainstream TV and films. And then and I'm not saying Cry Me a River for lack of representation for them, but but then he casts these prestige actors. Kevin Costner, your guy in Yellowstone, R.I.P. And Billy Bob here in Landman, not to mention Harrison Ford, et cetera, et cetera.
Ford and Helen Mirren just cutting it up in 1923.
Nicole Kidman just showing up online. Well, Nicole Kidman will show up for a lot of things, but you know, like, so he cast these, and Demi Moore and John Hamm, we'll get back to them in a second, like cast these people who give it like a layer of gravitas, a sheen of prestige. And they look, to your point about the travelogue, like it looks nice. It doesn't look cheap. So you feel like you're getting a luxe prestige experience without having to challenge your brain or your heart in any kind of way. I do understand why they're popular. I just don't think they're good, but not good stuff is super popular all the time. So,
So if we're continuing to go out of order, I think we could just assume that the answer to will you be continuing to explore more of the Sheridan verse is no.
I mean, I will consider 1923.
Okay.
And I will be watching this finale. That I mean,
of course. Yeah. Of course. You got to know what happens at the strip club with Ethel.
I mean,
come on.
We've all been building up to this. So, yeah.
Okay, well.
I just need to explain, for people who don't understand, there is out of nowhere a plotline that takes up the back third of this season about Allie Larder deciding her calling is to become a program director for an old folks home, which she does just by being like, should we go there? And then gets them drunk.
That's right.
And then we're all building up to a big trip out to the strip club.
Yes. For Ethel. She wants a dick in her face.
This is a real thing that is happening on television. Okay, cool.
Okay, Joanna. if you could bring yourself to answer these questions.
I can.
Do you have a favorite character? And do you have a favorite storyline? Did anyone work their way into your hearts at all?
I mean, Billy Bob is great. Like Billy
he
Bob
is amazing.
is great. Like he's wonderful, and like he delivers his monologues like perfectly, and like Billy Bob's accent is a delight. Like his voice is just a delight to listen to. And on Wig Watch, I have a lot of questions about Billy Bob's lifelong hair choices that he's made, and this is a real doozy situation here. But like all that aside, when he puts the hat on. And he takes a phone call, be it from the cartel or Ali Larder or John Hamm. It's all working for me. So I think Tommy and Billy Bob as Tommy like makes the show without question. Oh, yeah. Like if you cast almost anyone else, and certainly if you cast I don't know. It's just there's an authenticity there, and like and Jacob Lofland, who plays his son, Cooper. I got really excited when I saw Jacob Lofland was in this because I love the film Mud, and Jacob Lofland and Ty Sheridan, who were the boys in Mud, the Mud Boys as we call them. This is why I texted
Ty Sheridan in the order with a mustachioed and occasionally shirtless Jude Law.
I watched it on your recommendation. We can talk about that also.
I look forward to it.
The Mud Boys, we have been following their career with great interest since we saw Mud at South by like so many years ago. And I love that movie. And so I always get like really emotionally invested in them. Jacob Lofland shows up in the worst season of Justified. Like he has not had the opportunities that Ty Sheridan has had to like be in an X-Men movie or be in Ready Player One, like whatever. But Jacob Lofland has that like, that's also just his natural accent. And so like, he's like really fun to listen to and just, and I think his plot line is like one of the worst, most boring things. Yeah. But as a character, Cooper, like,
yes,
I'm really rooting for him.
Yeah,
in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I have the same reaction. I like Cooper. The Cooper Ariana storyline is just taking up way too much oxygen for my liking.
Do you remember when Matt Saracen fell in love with Carlotta?
I do, vividly. Yeah.
I think about it all the time when I'm watching this.
My relationship to the show is basically like any scene with Tommy or Angela, ideally with the two of them together, but really any scene with either of them is somewhere between like mesmerizing, magnetic to me, and just like at least baseline entertaining. And almost any scene that doesn't have one of them in it, I'm like,
why am I watching this?
Where's Tommy?
The other character that I genuinely love, and the performance I really like, is James Jordan as Dale Bradley, who is sort of like Tommy's right-hand man. And this is an archetype that showed up in a lot of like, I don't know, era of the antihero, like FX and HBO shows of just sort of like the right hand man who's sort of seen it all and is kind of over it, but it's just like really funny. And I just, and really dependable, and is just like there for you. Even if he disagrees with what you're doing. And I just, Dale is like Dale's a true treasure.
I find the fact that Tommy, Dale, and Nathan are sharing
a rental home,
corporate housing that happens to be a mansion, like incredibly odd and inexplicable at this point, given how many episodes Angela and Ainsley have now also lived there.
Yeah,
but very amusing. So James Jordan is in, I think, every single Taylor Sheridan show. He's not in 1923, but he's in 1883. He's in Mayor of Kingstown. He's in Yellowstone. As I understand it from Chris, he's in Lioness.
And 1883, is he playing his own ancestor?
He's playing
like Biff Tannen.
So Taylor Sheridan like uses the same performers across multiple shows. So like the character or the actor who plays Ainsley, Michelle Randolph, known surely to Ringer listeners as the real life sister of Cassie, who Colton jumped the fence for on The Bachelor, and one of the more famous reality television moments of our lives. She is one of the main characters in 1923, and then also one of the main characters in this show, and it is wild.
And she is, with love and respect, a really terrible actress who has had, but she's beautiful. but she's also like clearly had some like filler or whatever to her face. So she's a 27-year-old, but looks older than 27, playing a 17-year-old. And it is deeply confusing. I would also be confused to see her in a period piece because, again, she has like clear sort of plastic surgery face to me. Yes, Ainsley is special. I found out in my minimal research that I did to prepare for the segment, good old Robin Lively shows up as Salt of the Earth waitress at the Patch Cafe, and she's also in the Taylor Sheridan stable because she, I guess, plays a senator on Lioness, and I just like love that she's playing like a senator on Lioness and this waitress character who's just like, you want some chicken fried steak, hun? And that's basically like what her character is. So yeah,
great stuff. The Patch Cafe. So it seems to be the only restaurant in town. Okay, so Dakota Loving, not your favorite character. Noted.
Yes. Noted. Absolutely not. No.
Noted. Joanna, so when you're describing Landman and how you received Landman, how you processed Landman, what you thought about Landman, it brings to mind to me the way that Angela would talk about all of the refined sugars in the home. Like, let's get rid of them. I'm going to put a beautiful fruit yogurt parfait in the fridge.
Consider this me pouring water all over your Pop-Tart, but I don't think it'll stop you from eating Pop-Tarts.
Damn straight. No, it won't. So one of the questions that I was most excited to ask you today is, love to hear your thoughts on the incorporation of products, of food and beverage into this season of television, and what has impacted you most powerfully and memorably. Is it Michelob Ultra, which it's
a low alcohol beer? I don't know.
I guess I did not know that before, but every time Tommy orders one, it comes with a mini speech about how he doesn't drink, but he'll take multiple Michelob Ultras. Wild. Dr. Pepper, which we will be coming back to later. I'll just spoil now that will be coming up again.
Thank you.
Pop-Tarts. Chef Boyardee ravioli, which came up recently in very memorable fashion. Any favorites on the product placement or incorporation front?
As you did with my J School question, I would like to zag
please,
here.
Please.
And say all of this is great and all of this is true, but nothing compares to two other things, which is the Bentley ad that we get for half this season. As Angela's talking about wanting to get her Bentley back, it's all she cares about. She doesn't care about anything else with her prenup arrangement as long as she has her Bentley. And like, I thought it was like actually kind of a fun and funny character beat until we got one of those classic, like just a shot of the logo of the Bentley as she like pulls it out of the garage moment that I was like, oh, okay.
I do feel compelled to tell you.
Yeah.
That Beth Dutton
also drives a Bentley?
Also drives a Bentley on Yellowstone.
So Taylor Sheridan is just like drowning in Bentleys.
Has a thing for women driving Bentleys very clearly.
But follow-up, perhaps even more so than the Bentley moment, was what I would consider a 3 to 5 minute ad for Michael's Arts and Crafts. Where Beth...
This is a great call. What? This is wild.
When Angela's like goes to the old folks' home, they're all sad and sleeping, and like no one's paying attention to them. And she's like, "I know what they need." And she takes the Bentley and she pulls up to Michael's. And we get a clear shot that we're at Michael's, and then it's just Allie Larder
going up and down the
aisles of Michael's,
the shopping cart,
things in the shopping cart.
This was remarkable.
She then picks but it was shot well, but it looked like a commercial for Michael's, like literally, not like, oh, I'm driving a Bentley. It's like I'm pushing the cart up and down the aisles of Michael's Arts and Crafts. And the things she bought there are actually things you would buy at like Party City, not at Michael's. But, you know, maybe I am woefully unaware of the offerings at Michael's, but I've been there for a wooden dowel and a craft paint in my life, and I didn't know you could get eccentric party hats there. She gets like a like sequined captain's hat.
Amazing.
So Michael's in the Bentley, I would say.
That makes me think, like, do you have any, after watching 9 episodes of Landman, would you be more inclined to advise a young person seeking your counsel on where to continue their education to say TCU, Texas Tech,
Yeah.
Alabama, based on your time with Dakota Loving.
Not Alabama.
The TCU track meet.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, we're going to actually get some lines for Demi Moore here. But this is like one.
Well, it's like, come watch.
Your dad's loving it. No, he's not. He's just up there on the phone.
Yeah.
Bayer aspirin? No? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Michael's is a fantastic one. Great call. While we're on the subject of TCU, that track meet.
Yeah.
And in general, our limited but memorable time with Demi Moore and John Hamm. We don't have the answer to this, to be clear. But I would like you to formally go on the record with your guess.
Yeah.
I'm going to call this the Rock filming the final season of Ballers prompt, where it was like very clear that entire filming took place in like 3 days at the airport.
What about Pedro Pascal? Pedro Pascal, the Mandalorian.
Sure. Yeah. How many days? How many total days do you think?
Yeah.
Monty and Cammy, John Hamm, and Demi Moore were on the set of Landman.
5 max. I would say 5 max.
5!
You think that's too many? The main reason I think it's 5 is that we have multiple locations. We've got the track meet. We're inside the house.
Yes.
We're outside the house. That
Hospital.
Could be the same day.
Spoiler.
And then the hospital. And then the hospital. And then,
we get the
John
like
Hamm
foundation
is in like
dinner.
boardrooms. Yeah. There's the foundation dinner. So there's like multiple costumes, multiple locations. So but I still think we could get it done in a week.
I wonder if Hamm got to like a second week.
Yeah. Oh, Demi definitely less.
2 days.
Way less than him. Well, here's my hope for the finale. Spoilers for Landman.
Spoiler. This is actually legitimately a big spoiler. Yeah.
Big spoiler for, well, is it because we get Chekhov's heart pills in episode 1 of Landman? John Hamm clearly was like, sure, Taylor, I'll do 1 season of your show.
Yeah.
So his character died off screen and apparently we'll deal with it in the finale. But Demi is his wife, who Demi is barely in it, but she's great in it.
She is great. Yeah.
So I'm hoping that Demi gets my hope is that Demi gets like a big scene in the finale, and I hope it will help her win an Oscar. That's my hope.
I love this.
This was an argument I made on Big Pick. I did bring up Landman on the Big Pick, and I was like, Demi is riding the wave of her Golden Globe speech. I think it would be really cool if she won an Oscar, honestly, genuinely, like for her career. And if she has this massive Landman finale moment that like everyone's watching this show.
Yeah. You saw her reaction in real time at the award show last night to like saying when Billy Bob was just because that was his nomination that she was up there presenting for.
Yeah.
The Landman Bond.
Yeah, I know. It's real.
Beautiful stuff. So yeah, because Monty has exited this mortal coil with this, $1 billion, like the company
deal on the table.
in the shit now for this deal that he has made. So is how much of that is going to fall on Tommy to figure out? How much of that is going to end up being, Cammy has some sort of like, okay, well, the family and the fortune and the business kind of conversation. How long will it take to go where it seems like this is going, which is Cooper being a threat to that?
I feel like that's, don't worry. Oh, okay, my limited sense of Taylor Sheridan shows
away, but I don't know.
My limited exposure to Sheridan shows, I think he's the threat by the end of season 2. I think he's going to build his empire lickety-split.
That feels like where we're heading.
That he's got like basically a wife and a kid after 3 weeks.
And a dog. Don't forget the dog.
That's why. And the dog. Yeah. Rebecca Falcone, who plays the lawyer, Kayla Wallace plays like one of the worst characters I've ever seen on television.
Yeah, terrible.
So it is my fondest hope that in the absence of Monty, if Demi is busy and does not want to be in Landman, I support her. Mm-hmm. But if she wants to bump up her appearance in Landman, I would celebrate it because I think she's great, and the character is kind of like ripe for this. So there's a possibility that she's not in any more Landman at all, and then there's a possibility that she's a much bigger part of Landman season 2. And I think we're all living in a better place if Demi Moore is a bigger part of season 2 rather than sassy city lawyer Rebecca Falcone, who sucks.
Tough hang,
but is a feminist So we get to like talk down to her at all times. She's a shitty woke stick in the mud bitchy feminist.
It makes me I do feel that there has to be more coming for our girl. Because like like that feels like it had to be the sell. Now I will say, without spoiling other shows, and even we haven't gotten into it, but something that happens at the beginning of this show where one of the people who had like top billing heading in is just not alive.
Did he have top billing? Because when he showed up, I was like, I didn't know he was in this show. Does that mean he's not going to be in this show for very long? And then it was like,
he was like, his name was out there a lot. I don't know if he actually had top billing, but this is a thing that Taylor Sheridan does where he will bring people in and they're gone with a quickness.
Right.
But this feels more like, be patient. Your character is going to have a larger role to play in season 2. John Hamm is not going to be around for long.
There are moments when she's like, direct all calls to me. I'll handle this. There's a sense that she like has a hand in the business and could be capable, and it would be so fun to see. And the show really it would remind me, I think, of like Jennifer Jason Leigh in this most recent season of Fargo. Like the show really needs. I cannot underline this enough. This show does not have a single like female character where you're like, that's a cool lady who is never given a dressing down by any male character. And the thing about Billy Bob Thornton's character, again, Tommy, who I like, is he's always right, which is really annoying to me as like on a narrative front. He has multiple times lectured his wife about her like overly elaborate dinners and how she shouldn't like. He gives her the exact same speech, condescending, and she's like, "Thank you so much for telling me how it should be." And he does the same thing to this like lady lawyer multiple times. It's just sort of like a female character does not exist on this show for him to not condescendingly drawl at. And still he's my favorite character. And I don't like that about the show at all. And so if Cammie shows up and is just like competent and cool, that would be great. I would love that.
Joanna, that brings us to our next category. Okay. It's the one I'm most excited about. Many of these sound bites involve Tommy and Angela. Some of them involve Tommy and Ainsley. Some of them involve Angela and Ainsley. They are all so astonishing that I genuinely can't believe they're real. This is we're going to hear 7 clips, and it's basically like, which is your winner for most deranged, most debauched, most depraved exchange that you just frankly cannot believe was in this season of television, but also maybe should win a Pulitzer. And I want to be clear, this is not a comprehensive or complete list. I lamentably did not rewatch season 1 of Landman to prepare for this. Probably will before the finale.
It was a big football weekend.
And this is a combination of the clips that just immediately came to mind because they left such an impression the first time I saw them, or the ones that I had clips of on my camera roll because I had filmed them to text Chris. So if you have other contenders to offer up, please feel free. We're going to take these one at a time. Jessie, with my genuine and sincere apologies to you and everybody else, can we please hear clip number 1?
Are you two having sex?
Daddy.
Well, I had to ask.
Of course.
And that's what I get for asking. Are you being careful?
Yeah, we have a rule and we stick to it.
I'm going to regret asking you this, but what is this rule?
As long as he never comes in me, he can come anywhere on me.
I'm going to go get a Dr. Pepper. You want anything?
No.
Dr. Pepper.
Thanks for being so cool,
coming
Daddy.
Up clutch. Joanna, that's your first contender. That's Ainsley and Tommy looking out at Dakota Loving. And you had probably seen this on Twitter before you experienced it on Landman. This was, as long as he never comes in me, he can come anywhere on me, made its way around the internet.
I missed this.
Oh my God.
Because I've been like largely off Twitter, but I'm glad to know it. And I just want to note that this happens in the same episode where she then later, in a hoodie and like lacy undies, cuddles with her father, Billy Bob Thornton, in bed together. He does lampshade it by being like, do you have bottoms for that sweat like shirt that you're wearing. And she's like, don't be silly, daddy. And then she goes in bed and cuddles with him. And she is his 17-year-old daughter, but played by like a 30-year-old. It's fine. Okay.
Contender number 1. That was from episode 1.
Great.
Our next clip comes from episode 2, and this is a different vibe, but also very memorable. This is after Tommy nearly hammers the tip of his pinky off at the explosion site. Jessie, can we hear this?
Oh, Jesus. I'm going to stop that ambulance.
No, don't start the ambulance.
You don't want to go to the hospital with that?
No, I want a cigarette and a Dr. Pepper. There's a cooler there, pastor's side.
I want a cigarette and a Dr. Pepper. Have you ever in your life, Joe, suffered a grievous injury and when someone said, do you need medical attention, responded, no, I want a cigarette and a Dr. Pepper?
No, but I will say this. This is a couple things. Number 1, I have never been a smoker in my life. I was raised by a doctor to be like really prissy about it. I'm like, smoking is not cool. And then later in life got really into clove cigarettes. So like I do smoke a clove occasionally. This show made me want to smoke and I hate that. I hate that about the show, but it did. And did not make me want Dr. Pepper, but it did make me really respect Tommy's commitment to Sparkle Motion, that he has a cooler of Dr. Pepper in the truck.
Remarkable.
And I'm like, why don't I have a cooler of LaCroix in the Tiguan at all times, you know?
Yet. Maybe that's the impact Landman will ultimately have on your life.
For Christmas, Diana got me a thing that you put in your cup holder that it, like plugs into your cigarette lighter that stays cold. So you can basically like keep the LaCroix cold in the cup holder in your car.
What's the safety rating on that?
She was like, it was really hard for me to find one that didn't explode.
Yeah.
Didn't regularly explode.
This is hot, not cold. But of course, there's the Curb episode where Larry burns.
No, this thing is supposed to be both.
This
thing is supposed to be hot and cold.
Oh, no.
It can do either. But Jesus. I don't drink a hot beverage in the car.
Safe.
So it's not an issue.
Okay.
And I also haven't plugged this in yet because of the aforementioned explosion narrative. So, but a cooler for the LaCroix.
I like it.
Under the passenger seat in the Tiguan.
Proceed with caution. If you don't end up using that gift to heat beverages, perhaps you can use it to heat a boar bolognese, which brings us to clip number 3. This is from episode 5, and there were 2 moments that I could have selected here. So this is the longest clip. Had to get all of this in here. Jessie, can we please hear this one?
Do I look like a woman with a 22-year-old? I'm turning into a GAMILF.
The hell's a GAMILF?
A grandmother I'd like to fuck. I'm aging out a cougar, for fuck's sake.
All right, listen, honey. Let me ask you a question. And when I do, please don't hit me, all right?
What?
At what point are we in your menstrual cycle?
Oh, you motherfucker, don't you dare.
Well, let me guess. I'm going to say right towards the end.
You need to be real careful.
Am I wrong?
I'm stone-ass serious.
Tell me fucking truth. Am I wrong?
It's coming any minute.
That's what I figured.
I need a Midol and a fucking margarita.
Well, here's the good news. We got all of that.
We got all of that, Joe. All of that. This is wild. This is the clip that best embodies the spirit of every time Angela FaceTimes Tommy, and it's like the shrieking,
alarm
demon
sound.
heartbeat ringtone. Wild stuff. What a program.
That moment made me feel like the shitty lawyer character who I don't like. When she was like, when we meet her and he's like, I don't know what, a margarita for the lady or whatever he says. And then she was like, how dare you? And I'm like, what? What? I have been called a stick in the mud feminist a lot in my life. And I'm like, what are you on, lady? What are you talking about? But then I felt like that when I was like, seriously, a period joke in the year of our Lord 2025? A period joke? And then he's right and she apologizes?
To be fair, it aired in 2024.
Okay. A different time.
You just watched it in 2025. Okay. Our next clip comes from episode 6. This is after Tommy and Angela have arrived, a long drive down, up, over, I don't know, a drive to Fort Worth. And this is part of what I referenced in the letter that I wrote to you and Chris for your mailbag. Jessie, can we please hear clip number 4?
I ain't leaving without my Bentley. I don't care if I have to suck his dick for the keys. You're just gonna have to man up and move past it.
All right, well, buy a toothbrush on the way home.
Love you.
Very good.
I'd just like to repeat, in case anybody couldn't make that out. Angela, who is going to see her husband, who she has abandoned, to
be ex,
engage in a new affair with Tommy, her ex-husband, and is seeking closure, but more so her Bentley, and says, I don't care if I have to suck his dick for the keys. You're just going to have to man up and move past it. And Tommy, quite ready to move past it,
without flinching,
gets out of the car and as he's leaving says, all right, well, buy a toothbrush on the way home.
Yep.
Poetry.
Great stuff.
We have
Love
3
that.
clips left.
Thrill of my lifetime. I genuinely did like the toothbrush one. I genuinely did.
Really great. Really great. Okay. We now have 2 from episode 7. This one is, also about blowjobs. In a totally normal mother-daughter conversation about sucking dick.
One of many very normal Angela and Ainsley conversations.
One of many. This is Angela and Ainsley at the gym. They're engaged in a rigorous bit of exercise. Working on the peach, working on the tush, as they often are. Jessie, can we please hear clip number 5?
I'm never working a day in my life, no matter what. My only job is to make my man happy. Then he will buy me the things that make me happy and take me to the places that make me happy. And I will reward him with sex. That's the way the world works, honey. Throw in the occasional blowjob. You have the world by the short and curlies.
A sage. Yeah. That's the wisdom. The wisdom from Angela Naris. Remarkable stuff. Okay, from the same episode of television, episode 7, which was, boy, a doozy. There were other candidates in that episode as well. This is a remarkable moment in television history. This is after Angela has sent Tommy to go fetch Ainsley, who she is tracking via cell phone.
Oh, yeah. Okay, can I just say really quickly, this is another favorite part of my favorite part of the show, which is that these two absolutely forget that they have children or don't care that they have children until they really do.
Yeah.
And then they're like,
yes,
possessive helicopter parents.
Yes. Tommy is basically forced by Angela to go get Ainsley. Does not want to do this, could not care less. But then once he is there, this is the most important thing that has ever happened in Tommy Naris's life.
Correct.
Jessie, can we please hear clip number 6?
This is the way you introduce yourself to the town? By fucking the quarterback in the bed of his truck?
How'd you know he's a quarterback?
Everybody knows he's a quarterback.
What? He's famous.
You're gonna have to muster some self-control, honey.
I do. I did. I didn't mean to have sex with him. I was just gonna jerk him off. That's
Stop! Please! For Christ's sakes, honey.
Ryder.
Good old Ryder. Said grace in the penultimate episode of the season and thanked God for his foot speed. It was wild.
This was before they ate the paella with the wooden spoon.
That's correct. That's correct. I would just like to again state that this is a scene between a father and a daughter driving home after he has pulled her out of the bed of the Ryder, the quarterback's truck, where they are engaged in sexual congress. Mm-hmm. And he is dismayed by this. And his daughter says to him, I didn't mean to have sex with him. I was just going to jerk him off. That's all. That is what she says to her father.
And then she asks him how quickly he had her mom in the backseat of his car.
Yeah, but she got him there. She got him there.
And he was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And she's like, Mom says it was like 10 minutes. It would have been 5 if she knew where your car was parked.
Oh, look who's absorbed Landman.
I can quote Landman. I'm fluent in Landman.
Our last contender.
Yeah.
It's one we've already referenced. It wouldn't have felt right to engage in this exercise without Grandma Saracen, without Ethel joining us. Jessie, can we please hear from episode 8 of Landman, our 7th clip?
You think you'll find love again?
You never lost a lover, did you?
No.
I wouldn't want to go through that twice. But I would like to have a dick in my face one last time.
Ethel, genuinely great, wonderful, more of her. Can all of Cooper's, because Cooper is so Matt Saracen coded, can all of Cooper's scenes be with Ethel instead of, his current lady love?
Maybe Ryder is going to, despite the negotiating with Ainsley, maybe he's going to bail after all and have to tap in Cooper.
I don't need to see Cooper at the strip club. That's not what I'm asking.
But Ethel is, damn it. She just wants a dick in her face.
She does. And Ryder better come through.
The shock I felt when Ethel said this. Wow.
Wonderful
what a moment.
Stuff.
What a program. Do you have a winner or a loser, depending on your perspective? It's
how do you choose among this bouquet of perfect posies?
Oh, God.
I think it's got to be Toothbrush. That genuinely got me. I thought it was really funny.
And it's it is an excellent Billy Bob performance. It really is. And
he just tosses it off as he gets out of the truck to walk up to talk to John Hamm.
Yeah.
He's just sort of like,
buy a toothbrush on the way home.
Yeah.
Great stuff.
Billy Bob is genuinely very funny in the show and tosses off a lot of dry one-liners and great monologues, stuff like that. So there is joy to be found in this show.
Oh yeah.
But it comes with a lot of compromise
for some of us. Joanna, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for engaging in this holiday gift swap. I knew I was asking a lot, even though you volunteered freely.
I did.
You offered.
This is my idea. This is my idea.
I still want to thank you for.
I should have gone back I would like to go back in time though and be like, actually, I watched a bunch of Survivor kind of for you, not for you, but kind of so that I could better relate to you. And we could have been talking about Boston Rob this whole time, but that's for another day.
I'm waiting. I would love to. I've asked you to. I've floated certain seasons of Hard Knocks to you before. Yeah, we could have gone in any number of directions, and yet here's the thing. On Saturday, you're going to be getting texts from CR all fucking day because you've watched Landman now, and so I think really, truly, it is a gift.
It's a gift. And wait, I didn't ask you this, and we promised our producers would be a short one, and here we are.
Self too counts as short for House of R. For 2 entire seasons of television.
Did Adam interview with the vampire?
He did. So this was actually fascinating. I've mentioned this to you before that we've had this experience a couple other times where he is actually the one who's familiar with the source material and I'm not. And I'm like, oh, is this what it's like to watch television with me? Boy, this is trying.
Mm-hmm.
No, but he really liked the show, but he obviously was very familiar with the film, but he's actually read all the books. So he was ripping off, and he had a kind of incredible retention of them because I think it's been a while since he read them, but he was like, this about Claudia and this about Lestat and Armand, and he just remembered everything about the story.
Was the vampire Armand reveal a big moment for him, and you were like, who?
I was like, okay, Daniel's onto this guy. He's taking notes about him. It did seem like Louis sucked on him way longer than should have been possible for a human. Obviously, he's in the dream flashback for Daniel. So I'm I was on alert. But then, even though, yes, I'm not I know who Armand is, when he said he was 500, am I remember correctly, 514 years old? I was like, damn, this is. And then, of course, Louis called him the love of his life. So I was excited, but also heartbroken.
I just thought it was really funny the way that they did that reveal. That was the one moment where it was a little bit this is just for the book or the, because Antonio Banderas plays him in the movies. This is just for the movie lovers or the book lovers of when he's just I am the vampire Armand. It was this big moment. And I was like, there's a lot of people at home being like, who? Who's that? But I'm excited for you and Adam to continue your time. The Armand stuff in season 2 is really, really good. And I'm excited for you to experience it.
I can't wait. That
that's a gift for me. If Adam wants to text me, if you want to text me about Interview with the Vampire anytime, I await your texts.
Great. And so I think the question really now is just like, what vampire media is next for me after this?
Oh my God, don't tempt me with me. Don't tempt me.
It's got to happen one day.
It does. Someday. I just need a little bit more distance from me making you watch all of Doctor Who. So,
yeah, but you didn't make me. You gave me the gift.
Okay.
And I loved it. It was wonderful to share that with you. It was fantastic.
This has been a holiday gift exchange
between
Joanna Robinson and Mallory Rubin. I love how happy and giddy you get about stuff like this. Genuinely. And I'm happy to share it with you.
Same. This was really fun. I had an absolute blast. I'm just so sorry for Jessie and John having to play all those clips. I'm really sorry, guys. I hope you enjoyed Landman when you inevitably watch it after this.
These people are gifts to us, right? Jessie Lopez, who's doing our audio production today.
Oh my God. Wonderful.
John Richter, always the best, doing video production. Jesse's also always the best. It's just we don't usually get the pleasure of his company. So thank you for joining us, Jessie. Cameron Dinwiddie on video editing. Arjuna Ramgopal on production supervision as per usual. And Jomi Adeniran on the social. Shout out Jomi sending us photos from far-flung airports to make sure that we understand the candy offerings abroad. We appreciate you always. We'll see you later in the week for Skeleton Crew, the penultimate episode. Devastating.
Not ready for it to end. God.
Thank you all for listening to this very unusual episode of House of R. We will see you soon. Bye.